on a similar topic, effects. You've never used effects.
I never felt they enhanced what the way it felt to play this guitar. I could definitely see, playing another guitar that didn't maybe have as much sound, that to me, it gets weird when you play through effects. If you play a more of a solid body guitar that the sound is more about the effects you put on it, then I can see totally having that affect your sound. But again, it's just like, for me, I came up in the time, probably in the 80s, when it was all roll and jazz chorus. And everybody was kind of put that shimmer on everything. And I was like, that's kind of cool. I enjoy, I went to hear Mike Stern all the time, and I liked that. And he had his chorus sound, and then he stepped on his distortion thing and went to there. And I was like, that's really cool, But at that time, I was listening to all kinds of players. And what I noticed was, the people of my generation that just went with the chorus and just did that. They sounded kind of like, contemporary cats, and it was like they're playing, that kind of music that called for that sound, fit with that sound. I was trying to really learn how to play blues and bebop and standards and stuff. And just because that was where I was coming from, those are my heroes: Wes, Kenny Burrell, Jim Hall, Grant Green, and all the people that I listened to, Benson, everyone, Jimmy Rainey, Barney Kessel, everyone I heard, Joe Pass, I heard him live a couple of times, and all the great people that I got to hear, they all basically played a guitar through an amp. And they all sounded different based on their choices, based mostly on their touch, on the way. So, but what I found was, like, especially guys of my age who were like me, learning how to play, we would jam together with no amps, and that's how we played. That was our touch on the instrument, depending on whatever box we had or whatever. But we played guitars that were loud enough to be played without amps. And then they put on the chorus, and everyone sounded the same with the chorus. If they couldn't play, if they're Pat Metheny and Mike Stern, or Schofield, Abercrombie, Bill Frisell, those guys were using these effects, and they had sounds on their instrument too. We heard, Schofield sounds the same on an acoustic guitar as he does. It's just like, it's his touch. Same with Pat Metheny, same with these guys. So I'm like, even though they're, just a little bit older than me and came up in the era where the guitar, really used those sounds. And I think for me, like, it was just kind of like, I liked rock and roll, but then when I got into jazz, I felt like that this is something that's, I'm going back and checking out. And I was going back and checking out the rock and roll so the rock and roll that was coming out in the 80s didn't seem to, when Schofield and those guys, they saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan's show. They were of age when rock and roll, even like someone like Tony Williams, as great as a straight ahead, he was of a generation that and he wanted to play rock. I don't blame him. It was the late 60s. That's where he was like this, he was like 23 years old. He wants to wear a suit and play straight ahead jazz. The rest of his, he's like, no, I'm going to play some rock. That was the music that was like rebellious. And I kind of felt like, man, rock is weird now. It's MTV and it's this kind of synthesizer stuff. And I was like,
spandex.
Learning, checking out Charlie Parker, like, to me, that was like, this is something that I can,
they're great.
That was rebel. Great. That was a real rebellious thing.
I mean, it really is amazing how you've basically stuck to those values, stuck to your guns for decades,
yeah, I guess.
You must be really pleased with kind of looking back, just like climbing a mountain, looking back and going, I did it. I stuck to my guns.
I can't say that I am. I can't say that I am. I think that's, I'm trying to get better. I'm relieved when I feel like I'm better than I was 20 years ago. That's a big relief to feel like, okay, I have some things together that I didn't have then, and I'm getting more. But I also feel like, well, it's becoming such a long time that maybe, it's time to experiment. It's time to let go. Maybe there's a certain thing of how much is like, sticking to your guns and how much is like sticking to what's, like I'm always questioning myself, like, I got to do something totally different, but I'm still fascinated with just this thing and picking it up and trying to play songs. And the amp is something you need to project the sound. It's part of the sound.
Don't do anything different.
But the thing is, like, I don't know. I mean, there's different kinds. My hero, Miles Davis, changed. He didn't, and to him, like, it was like, why would I go play music that I played even 10 years ago? Things have changed. Time is different. I'm very aware, like you talk about this band that we have for 35 years. I mean, it's absurd. If you got a band together in 1945 and then we're still playing that way, some of the same songs in 1980, it would be bizarre, you know? It's because music changed a lot more since in those 35 years than the last 35 years, I guess. Or is that our own just kind of, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm not bored of it. So that's the thing. It's still a challenge. It's still something that I want to, you know, keep getting better at. And if I'm able to work, then that's great. But I don't know if it's not like you know, millions of fans are going to be mad if I do. It's really on me. You know what I mean? It's like nobody really cares. It's just jazz.
Well,
anyway.
I mean, the world's not bored of it. I mean, you're selling
the world.
out tours,
well,
right?
I'm getting to play with people, but I also feel like, you know, there's just, I'm sure for every person that says, okay, good for you for doing it the old way, there's someone saying, man, what's wrong with this guy doing it the old way? So, I mean, well, who's to say who's right? I mean, I have to live in that state of, you know, near neurosis to just like, you know, keep some edge on myself and, you know, try to keep creating and not playing the same shit, write something, imagine something different. You know, I gotta do something different soon. For
Well,
sure.
don't change too much, will you?
That's the thing about Miles that's different because he changed his surroundings. You know,
Right,
he talks
that's
about
true.
fashion. He says I couldn't play. Someone was interviewing him in the '80s and he's wearing, you know, some cool stuff from the '80s. It's like I couldn't wear this and play what I played in 1962. And that sounds very like a superficial answer, but I don't think it is at all. I think it's very deep in terms of not because it's about fashion, but it's about how you feel about what you do and the attitude you have about being like, this is my thing now, you know? And that's kind of like very artistic in a way to leave what, you know, he looked great in suits, you know, no question. He was always about fashion, but the fashion changed. And I couldn't play that way wearing this. You know what I mean?
No,
So
totally
I don't know. Maybe I got to get some new clothes, but I don't even think it's not as much about that. It's like, that's okay because he didn't really change the way he played the trumpet. It was still about the same things of the sound and the space and the phrasing, and he just changed the setting. You know?
So the next time we see you, you're going to have platform shoes.
Maybe. Then there's
Silver
also Monk. There's also Thelonious Monk, who was probably the same dude in 1947 as he was in 1973. So, there's nobody greater than either of those guys. And so it's just like with that's the thing about jazz, you have all these personalities that are so like, you know, role models as artists. You know, if not as people necessarily. I don't know them, but. All of them, but some people I've got to know are you know, they are who they are, what they play in a way. It's all
well, that's exactly what you are, man. You should never forget that. You know,
all right.
You're a hero to
I appreciate that.
thousands, hundreds of thousands.
All right,
of
I appreciate it, man.
You are. You really are.
Dozens.
You're going to have to get to your sound check.
I
at
think
some
so.
point,
It's
aren't you?
getting to be that.
I mean, do you want to finish off with a blues or something like that?
What
whatever.
time is it?
It's nearly 3.
So we got time for
a quick or whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever you feel.
Or a Kenny Burrell tune. Do you? I don't know. You mentioned Kenny Burrell.
I love Kenny Burrell. Yeah.
Have you ever played Midnight Blue?
I have, but which one is that one? Yeah.
Or something else.
Yeah, I kind of know it, but yeah. How about a blues? How about
sure.
How about in that vibe? D flat 7. All right, man. Nice.
Fantastic.
Nice, man.
Mate,
thanks, man.
Thanks so much for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks
for your
Nigel.
time.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great tour, of course.
Man.
All right.
Yes, sir.